Let's talk with Chris Steyerwalt, our Fox News digital politics editor. All right, Chris, the president, it is a tough job, probably the toughest job in the world. He's got to make very difficult decisions. What does he do with this one?
Well, there's a substantial political overlay here, Shannon, because we have seen the president's approval ratings with the American people plummet on foreign policy as these crises, not just with ISIS, but in Eastern Europe, with Vladimir Putin, with the ongoing conflict in Gaza, consequences of the Arab Spring, and especially the U.S. border crisis. So the president and Democrats are at a low ebb right now in the public confidence in their ability to handle international crises. And don't forget, it's an election year. So the president is certainly hearing from Senate Democrats who say this can't go on like this. And don't also forget this. This is still a predominantly Christian country, and many voters have been hearing Sunday after Sunday in the pulpit about the plight of Christians in Iraq and under the thrall of ISIS over there. This is something that American voters are paying attention to and that they're hearing, and they want results.
Yeah, and it's something that's been going on for a long time. We've seen it in Syria. We've seen it in a number of other countries where it's just been building and building and building, where there are entire regions and cities where specific religious minorities are being told you can't live here or we're going to chop your head off. I mean, those are basically the options they've been given. So it's not like this is something new, but it's certainly reaching a point where there is international attention on it now. And as you said, people are hearing about this in their churches. They're seeing it now in the papers, and it's a part of the daily discussion of their lives. So if, as we understand, the White House has authorized and the president has authorized to move ahead with these humanitarian drops, do you think that's going to be enough to satisfy the people who are so worried about those who are being trapped and murdered, essentially? Or do you think that, you know, how carefully does the president thread that needle with military action against those who they voted for because he said enough of that over there in the Middle East?
Well, there's enough, and then there's enough. The question here for the president is, you call attention to it. You say we have to do something to help these people. You call attention to the people you formerly called the JV team dressed up in a Kobe Bryant jersey. You call attention to the problem. You say that a potential threat to the United States exists. You talk about it, and then it goes on. We watch this president let the civil war in Syria, a genocidal civil war, go on and on and on and continue to this day. We have watched that happen. We have watched Libya, where we instituted regime change. We were part of a coalition that instituted regime change, fall to utter pieces, absolutely collapse. And the American public, which certainly wanted out of Iraq and certainly wants out of Afghanistan and is sick and tired of being sick and tired of watching Americans die at war, are also watching in horror as the world situation and world security unravels while Vladimir Putin laughs from the other side of the Crimean Sea, of the Crimean Peninsula.
Hearing from the president, we expect in just a few minutes, what would you advise him, in case he's listening, because Chris Steyerwalt gives excellent advice, political and otherwise.
No doubt.
If you were part of his team, what would you advise him to come out and say to the American people tonight?
You got to be clear. You got to be strong. You got to say what you're going to do. You don't want to equivocate. You don't want to mumble mouth. You don't want to talk in broad platitudes. This president has a tendency to build straw men and then burn them down. And that's okay when you're giving a political speech. But when you're talking about military action, or you're talking about the possibility for military action, you have to say, this is the problem. This is the solution we propose. It needs to be clean. It needs to be clear so that you don't lose the thread. The other thing he has to worry about is infuriating his political base. Democrats are already not activated for the Senate elections this fall to help him keep the Senate. He doesn't want to scare them and make them think he's going on a bombing raid in Iraq.
We shall see in just moments. Chris, thank you, as always.
You bet.